Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, welcome to my sukkah in my patio. This is our second service that we are broadcasting from my sukkah. I was here Thursday morning. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Sukkot. We have our local family here. We'll be having dinner in this very sukkah after services. Before I start, because we might not get another chance together, I wanted to do the brachot, or the bracha, over the etrog and lulav before we start. So if you didn't get a chance to shake a lulav or even see an etrog and lulav, well, here they are. I'm going to do the bracha right now, and the way we do that is we hold the lulav with the myrtle and willow in my right hand, and we hold the etrog in my left with the stem up. I put them together and say the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat lulav. Turn the etrog over with the pitom up, and we shake in 6 directions: to the east, to the south, to the west, to the north, up and down. And the reason I'm doing that before services is because it is traditional not to take the lulav and etrog on Shabbat. So as soon as we start services, it will be Shabbat. And I wanted to have an opportunity. We will have another opportunity on Hoshana Rabbah on Monday morning, actually, to do the same. So, welcome to everyone. Collective breath for having made it to the end of another week. And it was nice to get Yom Kippur over. It was nice to start Sukkot. And now here we are on the Friday night of Sukkot, which we always have Pray in Pink. Hold on one second. You got it? Sorry. We always do Pray in Pink on the Shabbat of Sukkot. We are not doing that tonight. We couldn't beat our speaker from last year. Our speakers, Betty and Elaine, but we promise that we will have another speaker next year, and we will have a big dinner inside the synagogue. So Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, and we will begin our service. Tonight's service is a little shorter because it is Chol HaMoed Sukkot, Shabbat, and we don't do Kabbalat Shabbat. So we begin with, on page 27, we're praying out of Siddur Lev Shalem for Shabbat and festivals. And we'll begin on page 27. A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. Tzadika tamar yifrach, ki erez balvanon yiske shitulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yiyu lehagid ki yasher Adonai Tzuri below of Latabo, page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned, you are eternal. The rivers rise up, Adonai, the rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean. Adonai stands supreme in the heavens. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Please rise as we begin Ma'ariv, page 39a, as we join in with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamavorach, Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher b'dvarim. U'mahavir yom u'mevi layla, mavdir ben yom u'vein layla, Adonai tzavot shemo. El chai v'kayim tamid yimloch aleinu olam va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Hamariv Aravim, page 40. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam v'ohed ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu u'v'ohem menege yomam v'layla v'yavatecha tasi mimenu la'olamim Baruch ato Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol v'chol v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ho'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shachpecha v'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'ninecha u'chtav nam zuzot beitecha Uvisharecha v'haya'im shamo tishma'u el mitzvotai. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'yamarta lehem v'yasu lehem tzitzit al kanfei v'gnehem ledoratam v'natnu al tzitzit hakana petil tachelet v'haya lachem letzitzit oritem hoto u'zchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam V'lo tatu acharei levavachem v'achareinechem asher tem zonim achareihem leman dizgeru v'azitem net kol mitzvotai v'item kadoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etachem me'eretz Mitzrayim leot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation, binding on us that Adonai is our God, and there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors, and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom, and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלהם משה ובני ישראל נשירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדור בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ובניך בו קיים לפני משה זה לי ענו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלוד מן החזק ממנו ברוך את אדוני גאל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו ושמוצאתנו בין לחיים ושלמתה ויעלם ופרוסלן סוכת שלמך ברוך את אדוני הבורא סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. Please rise, page 46. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם וביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית העולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית העולם. We rise for the Friday night Amidah. Since this is Shabbat Chol HaMoed Sukkot, we had the second paragraph, the Ya'alev Yavo, on page 50, in honor of the holiday of Sukkot. Pages 47 through 52. ביום חג הסוכות הזה זכינו Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Ki Ata Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki Ata Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Shalom Bechol Ed Uvechol Sha'a Bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasihim Leolam. Tasihim Leolam. Tasihim Leolam. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Chag Sameach. And as everybody gets used to me saying this time of year, Hug Sameach, because I miss all the hugs I get, not only this time of year, but every Shabbat. I'm sure you miss that as well. There are two occasions in Jewish life where Jews put up a temporary symbolic home. At a Jewish wedding, bride and groom stand under a canopy called a chuppah, symbolic of the home that the bride and groom will make together. It has a chuppah, has a roof, but no sides. And on the festival of Sukkot, we erect a temporary hut to eat our meals in. And the sukkah has walls, but the roof is made of branches that must be open enough to see the stars, to allow the rain to come through, and in case you lived in a snow climate, allows the snow to come in. And I know that for a fact that when we lived in Salt Lake, there were many times when snow would be 3 and 4 inches on the table while I was trying to do Kiddush. When we perform a wedding, we always say that a chuppah is covered on top and open on the sides. This harkens back to the tradition of Abraham and Sarah in the Bible, who had a tent open on all sides. They could see in every direction and welcome passers-by and guests into their home. A chuppah is always surrounded by the most important people in a couple's life. A sukkah, on the other hand, must have walls, but it is open to the heavens, with only a layer of branches to protect those inside from the elements. There must be more shade than sun from those branches. But if they are laid on so thick that one cannot see the stars, or the rain cannot get in, it stops being a sukkah and becomes a simple hut with a roof. The sukkah is closed on the side, but open to nature, so it is open to God. We have two temporary homes that become part of the ritual of Jewish life. One is open on the sides and closed on the top. This is symbolic of letting people in. One is closed on the sides and open on the top, or somewhat open on the top. This is symbolic of letting God in. Thus, we have a powerful message about the permanent homes in which we live. Our home must be open to other human beings. One of the greatest mitzvot of Judaism is called Hachnasat Orachim, opening our home to guests. Our home must also be open to God. I think of the story of the little boy who spends a week with his grandparents while his parents are on vacation. His grandparents tell him to kiss the mezuzah, to say the Shema at bedtime, to say a blessing before the meal, and to help bless Shabbat candles. These are constant reminders of God's parents. When the parents come at the end of the week to pick their son, the boy says, "Goodbye, God. I am going home now. I am not going to see you anymore." The chuppah and the sukkah are temporary homes with profound lessons for our permanent homes. Our homes must be open to human beings, and our homes must be open to God. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to do a pause right now because I miscalculated times for candle lighting, and I'm going to ask my daughter, who might be able to hear me, since they're on YouTube. I'm going to knock on the door. You guys want to light candles now? You want to light candles now? I miscalculated the time. I'm going to get Adina and Daphna to come and light candles before we do Kiddush and conclude our service. Let me see if I'm going to move the cam a little bit. So, you have to go all the way around.
All the way around?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
And there it is.
Daphna, come on.
Remember, you're online. You're online.
Daphna, come on.
Chaya, come here.
Kaya, back up.
Come here, Chaya.
I just got hit in the face.
Okay.
Come on, kiddo.
Come on, everybody's watching you.
Hold on. Stretch out. Sorry, I'll get my hand at the fire. You'll be
Okay. You're all right.
Okay. Open that one out.
Got about 30 people online watching you.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah. That's every week. Good job.
Okay, ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu bo mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
I'm strong.
Nice.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Give me a hug.
shalom.
Give me a hug. Hug Sameach.
Hug Samantha.
Okay, we're gonna.
What do you have?
Okay, thank you guys. I appreciate that. We're gonna do Kiddush right now, which is on page 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadisho b'yava uvratzan hinchilanu zikaron l'mahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikrei kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. We rise for Aleinu, page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gerula liutzeh bereshit shalo asanu kagoyeh haratzot v'lo samanu kamishmachot hadama shalo sam chelkenu kahem gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Okay, Nikavil Adonai Eloheinu li'irub me'bidun. Gagadu b'doretech Adonai imloch le'lam v'owed v'nehemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom mahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo Ushmo Echad. You may be seated.
Shabbat Shalom, Rav Dad.
I heard that. This week we will observe yard sites for Matilda F. Cohen, Morris S. Rousseau, Idella Dana, Samuel Center, Prosper Ziri, Harry Berlin, Rocha N. Hannon, Samuel Shinbaum, Linda Taffet, Harold Ehrlich, Isser Marsu, Norman Rosenzweig, Shirley Rosenzweig, Henry Blondheim, Emmanuel Dre, and Frida Pincus. We send out yahrzeit letters to all of you who observe the yahrzeit for a loved one over the year, and I ask that you send in remembrances for your loved ones. And I'm going to read two that I received this week, and we will put them in our bulletin, and we will also collect them for posterity so that we have a collection of remembrances for all of those that we mourn. The first one comes from Betty Ziri. My parents, Norman and Shirley Rosenzweig, were a very close and loving couple. He was an engineer and she was an artist, but though their talents were very different, they formed a great team. When they, along with three other couples, decided to start a new shul in northern Seattle, Dad was the steering committee chair and Mom's provided support. Within a few short months, Shabbat services were initiated, and while Dad researched and wrote sermons, Mom was organizing onegs and welcoming new members. God got me interested in all types of needlework, as well as cooking and baking. There wasn't a math problem that Dad couldn't help me solve, and was careful that I not only got the correct answer, but understood how I got there. Jewish practices was a daily routine in our home. I remember many Shabbos dinners to which a family new to the community or shul was invited. Of course, it wasn't until later years that I could really appreciate all my parents did for their children and all they taught us through example. Their expectations for us were high, and their love of us was deep. I miss them both so very much. Prosper, Zichron Livracha, was a many-faceted individual. He was an avid reader, always nonfiction. His subject matter reflected his interest. History, Judaism, and Israel. Biographies and countries of the world were among his favorites. He spoke several languages and wrote to practice them every chance he got. A trip to Maxwell's commissary, or BX, was an adventure because he could join in a conversation most every time he heard a foreign language. He loved meeting new people and discussing the many countries he visited and his memories of growing up in Morocco. He had family and friends around the world. Friendships were usually a result of his many Air Force assignments. It was not unusual to get a call from someone speaking French, and I knew I needed to get him to the phone. His final service assignment was Air Force ROTC headquarters at Maxwell. Whenever he met a high school or college student, he usually gave a plug for ROTC and a career in the Air Force. He loved the Air Force almost as much as he loved America. I called him Uncle Sam's favorite adopted son. He brought joy to many people, and people brought joy to him. Thank you, Betty. And the next one comes from Barry Blondheim. Henry M. Blondheim was born in Cedartown, Georgia, and grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. He moved to Columbus, Georgia, and married Louise Feinberg. He was a devoted father of 3 sons, Herbert Barry and Dickie Blondheim. He owned and operated the Boston Shoe Store and with his wife until they retired. He was a member of Sherit Yisrael Synagogue and was chairman of the Chevra Kadisha for many years. He enjoyed writing skits that were performed at the Standard Club, and he wrote poems for his family in his spare time. He never missed a day completing the word puzzles in the newspapers. Thank you so much for those remembrances. We will definitely hold on to them and keep them. And I hope that this will inspire everyone else who has a remembrance or a memorial. When you're doing a yard site, please send in that remembrance to us. Page, we have 2 more things we have, and then we'll conclude our service. The first is Psalm 27. I forgot to do morning Kaddish. That was the whole point of all of that. Those observing yard site, and those who mourn, please rise. Page 58. Sorry about that, for the morning Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, b'agalav izman kariv yimaru amen, yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam olmei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitomam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudishah b'richu, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yama v'yimaru amen, yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav uyaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. And now we continue with Psalm 59. You may be seated. Page 59, Psalm 27. A psalm of David. Adonai is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, my enemies and those who besiege me, it is they who stumble and fall. Should an armed camp be arrayed against me, my heart would show no fear. If they were to go to war against me, for this I would be sure. One thing I ask of Adonai, this is what I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's peacefulness and to pray in God's sanctuary. In a time of calamity you would bind me, hide me in your sukkah, and fold me in the secret recesses of your tent, and you raise me up to a stronghold. Now my head is raised high, and my enemies round about And I come with offerings amidst trumpet blasts to God's tent, chanting and singing praise to Adonai. Adonai, hear my voice as I cry out. Be gracious to me and answer me. It is you to whom my heart said, seek my face. It is your presence I seek, Adonai. Do not hide your face from me. Do not act with anger toward me. You have always been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, my God, my deliverer. Though my father and mother abandon me, Adonai will gather me in. Show me your way, Adonai, and lead me on a straight path, despite those arrayed against me. Do not hand me over to those who besiege me, for false witnesses who breathe hatred have risen against me. If only I would trust that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Place your hope in Adonai, be strong and take courage, and place your hope in Adonai. We will conclude this evening service on page 211 with Adon Olam, and I'm going to sing my favorite version of Adon Olam. So indulge me. Adon Olam Asher malach b'terem kol Yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chefso kol Azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora V'hu haya, v'hu haveh, v'hu yeh b'tifara. Adon Olam asher malach terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh v'hu yeh b'tifara. V'hu echad v'yein sheni lamshilo lehachbira beli reshit beli tachlit v'lo oz v'hamizra. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh v'hu yeh b'tifara. V'hu eli v'chai go'eli v'tzur chevli v'yetzara v'hu nisi umanos li minat kusi b'yom mekara. Adon Olam asher malach terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh v'hu yeh b'tifara. V'yado avkid ruchim b'tishan v'yaira v'imruchi geviati Adonali v'lo ira. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra liyet nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu haveh. Dono la Mashem Lach B'Terem Kol Yitzin V'Li Yed Nasav V'Kevsako Zay Melech Shimoni Kol V'Yachari Keklotako Levado Yimlochnu V'Oya V'Oya Betifara. Thank you, Adina. Thank you for accompanying me. Shabbat Shalom. And as I will never, ever get tired of saying, Hug Sameach. Good night, everyone.